Chapter 1. I had the weirdest day. I guess I'll start at the beginning. I had just finished unpacking the last box in my new apartment. It's more of a room and less of an apartment, but it will do until I make some more money. See, I moved to this city to be a paramedic. Westport has the honor of being the most violent city in the country, leading in drug-related deaths, murders, robberies, assaults, and all sorts of other crimes. Obviously, that's not true. It's just an excuse for big corporations to put people in jail straight through the school-to-prison pipeline. Still, it's true that a lot of people get hurt here, but I know that compassion and love always beat hate and unkindness. Maybe if I could show some kindness, that would change someone's mind about being unkind that day, and their kindness would infect the next person, and so on, until love wins. Humans are basically good-willed people, right? I still think that, of course, but the day I had would make a lot of people think otherwise. Sorry, rabbit trail. So, I celebrated my move-in with a cup of coffee. There was this cute little shop down the street from my apartment complex called Aroma Arabica. It wasn't that far of a walk. But on the way, I saw a frantic man pacing back and forth with his hands on his head, mumbling to himself. He seemed to be in distress, so I walked his way. His hair and beard were long and disheveled. His clothes were ill-fitting and stained. He noticed me. "Hey, man," he said. "My car's broke down around the corner. You got a phone I could use?" "Of course," I said. I was more than happy to oblige. I would never refuse a man down on his luck. I was already getting opportunities to show kindness to others and pay it forward. So I pulled my phone out of my pocket and handed it to him. He seemed to have trouble using it, but he eventually figured out how to call someone. "Hey man, my car's broke down." Nah, the man said. "I'm by the apartment building." "Yeah." "Nah, I'm borrowing somebody's phone right now." "Yeah." "Nah." Then he started to walk away, still talking on my phone. I tried tailing him, but he got away from me in the crowd, and I lost track of him. I'm sure I'll see him around the neighborhood at some point, but I'm without a phone for the time being. A little irritating, but I'm sure the guy didn't mean to get lost in the crowd like that. I hope he at least got his car fixed. So I finally got to the Arabica. It wasn't quite as cute on the inside as I had hoped. The lighting was a bit dead. They had a few cold fluorescent ceiling lights, but I'd say 80% of them were broken. It was a bit dark and creepy, if I'm being honest. It was more like a diner from a horror movie than a cute corner cafe. The barista was nice, at least. He was an older man, and a tad greasy. It was a bit of a jarring experience, to be honest. "Coffee?" the barista asked. I nodded and took a breath, ready to give my order. "Small, medium, large?" I'm used to ordering my coffee in tall, grande, and venti. I got a small. I was ready to let him know how much sugar and non-fat soy milk to use, but he simply poured the cup and gave it to me. "Cream and sugar over there," he said, pointing to a tiny table in the corner of the room, covered with sugar and milk that was quickly turning to cheese. I don't usually drink dairy, but I wasn't in the mood for black coffee today. I grabbed a few napkins to wipe the sugar and milk off my cup. I sat in one of the booths, on the side facing the door, since seeing the city was marginally nicer than having to stare at the wood paneling. The coffee smelled strong, and it was. Milk just doesn't taste the same as my non-fat soy milk. It was a bit dusty, too. The coffee had been ground too fine, or the filter wasn't fine enough. Then she walked in. She stood out to me for some reason. Others had come in and out of the cafe, but none caught my attention like she had. I feel awful for admitting this, but her look was so intriguing. I hope I'm not fetishizing. I'm not sure if she was Puerto Rican or Egyptian or what, but she had tan skin and thick, wavy hair that came just below her chin. But most distinct to me were her deep blue eyes. She looked like she hadn't gotten much sleep in a long while, and she seemed to be in a bad mood by the look on her face. Her eyebrows were crunched down, her nose was crinkled, and her lips never betrayed so much as a smile. Her style also caught my attention. She walked in with her hands tucked inside the pocket of an oversized purple hoodie. Her boots clopped on the tile of the cafe as she walked. She wasn't wearing any jewelry or makeup from the look of it. "No!" the barista shouted. "Not you! I call the city right now! You give me bad grade last time. A B! Why you give me B?" "Because your shop is dirty," she said. "Don't bother calling the city. I'm the only health inspector. They don't need more than one." "They need more than one. I not let you in," the barista said. "Oh, you let me in if you don't want an F." She pulled a badge from her hoodie. "This means I can shut you down in a second if I want. You would be closed and nobody would bat an eye. Get the hell out of my way and let me do my job." The barista begrudgingly complied. It was an awkward exchange, to say the least. The barista seemed awfully unprofessional yelling like that with customers in the cafe, but at the same time the health inspector seemed a little rude too. I guess it was nice to see an empowered woman not letting a man tell her how to do her job. All the yelling made my heart jump, though, and put a knot in my stomach. It was tough to drink the rest of my coffee. It might have also been the dairy in it, too. I usually avoid dairy. After a little while, the girl came back out, and the barista followed. "So? What grade you give me? What grade?" "What grade? Well, I have good news. You can take that B you hate so much out of your front window." She handed him a piece of paper. "C? You give me C? Why you give C?" "You have the health code, retard. Maybe you should read it again. Or have someone read it for you." She started to walk away, but the barista grabbed her by the arm. Without any hesitation, she grabbed a mug from the counter and chucked it at the barista's head. It made a tink as it bounced off his temple. He let her arm go to grab his head instead. She latched onto his collar and threw 2 hard punches into his face. Whap! Whap! She turned, picked up a stool, spun and smashed it on the barista's head. He fell to the ground. "Gah!" she said, looking at her torn up and bloody fist. I handed her one of my napkins as she walked by. She took the napkin and wrapped it around her hand and left without a word. I went to the barista to check on him and administer any first aid he might have needed. "Are you okay?" I asked. He nodded. His nose was likely broken. "She give me C. Nobody want to go to C business." I grabbed a napkin for his nose. "My name is Jason. I'm a paramedic," I said. I asked him to follow my finger, and he seemed to do well, so there was no immediate sign that he had a concussion. I still wanted to call an ambulance for him, but I didn't have my phone. "Listen, you can't be grabbing girls like that," I told him. Obviously, I needed to treat him. But what did he expect would happen when he touched a girl without her consent? "She shouldn't give me C. Cafe is clean," he said. So the Aroma Arabica was a bust. The ceasing of my continued patronage had very little to do with the C rating, by the way. But I had gotten my caffeine in me, so I left to go do the rest of my chores. The bank was a few blocks away, and I had to go set up my account. So on my way there, a raggedy man approached me. He wore a tattered ball cap, reeked of cigarettes, and spoke to me through his last few teeth. "Hey man, my car broke down around the corner, and I just need a few dollars to catch the bus. I forgot my wallet. You got anything to spare?" As it happened, all I had on me was a 20. I knew that bus fare wasn't $20. "All I have is a 20, I said. "Please, man, please. I just had a heart attack. I've got my kids waiting for me. I wouldn't lie to you, man. My car's right around the corner, and it just broke down. I gotta get on the bus, man." An awful lot of people seemed to be having car problems that day. I was going to the bank anyway, so I gave him my 20 and went on my way. Who knows? Maybe he was telling the truth. More than likely, the bus was more expensive than it should have been anyway. The system is not kind to the impoverished. I have a decent job anyway, so it's not like $20 is a big deal to me. I'd make that back in an hour. Well, an hour and a half, after taxes. I feel like a horrible person for admitting this, but I was a little annoyed with him. But I should have been annoyed at this system that keeps people down, people just like that man. If he had access to education, he would probably be an astronaut or something. Anyway, the bank was busy, and it seemed like I was the last to arrive in the morning rush. So I stood in line for a half hour. The architecture was interesting and extravagant. Lots of granite. I was a little distracted, if I'm being honest. But once the crowd cleared and I was about fifth in line, I noticed the girl from the cafe, the health inspector with her purple hoodie. She was at the teller's desk. But suddenly, a loud boom, boom, boom rung through the air. 3 loud gunshots. I turned to see what happened and was met with a smash to the face. I'd never been hit that hard in my life. In a panic, I dropped to the floor immediately and threw my hands on my head. "Everyone get down! You don't move, you don't get shot, you hear?" There were 3 guys in suits that had just walked in the front door. I could only see their legs from where I was standing. "Don't anybody try to be—" And he was cut off by the sound of 6 more shots in groups of 2. Ba-boom! 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 In less than 2 seconds, all 3 men were on the ground. The one I could see had a hole in his forehead, and blood was pouring out like when you pour milk from a carton. The room went silent for a moment. Not even a breath could be heard. When the girl said, "So anyway, I'd like to withdraw $600.